You know that feeling when you walk through the front door, drop your bag, and before you even take off your shoes, you look at your dog and go, "Oh my God, you would not believe the day I just had." And your dog tilts his head like he's genuinely concerned, like he's about to ask a follow-up question. And then you keep going. You tell him about your passive-aggressive coworker. You ask the cat whether you should quit your job. You narrate your entire evening routine to an animal who is objectively thinking about dinner. And then one day, someone catches you doing it. Maybe it's a roommate, maybe it's a partner, and you get that look, the amused, slightly concerned look, and suddenly you feel ridiculous, like maybe you've crossed a line, like maybe normal people don't hold full conversations with a creature that licks its own feet. So you laugh it off, but quietly in the back of your mind, you wonder, is something wrong with me? Spoiler alert, not only is nothing wrong with you, your brain is actually doing something remarkably sophisticated. Talking to your pet isn't a sign that you've run out of human friends or that you're losing your grip on reality. It's a sign that your nervous system has identified something that most people overlook. Your pet is one of the only beings in your life who offers you completely unconditional, judgment-free presence. And your brain knows that. See, here's the thing nobody tells you. Your mind doesn't actually need someone to understand your words in order for speaking them out loud to be therapeutic. It needs a safe witness. It needs a living, breathing presence that won't interrupt you, won't correct you, won't make it about themselves, and won't hold it against you later. Your pet is, neurologically speaking, the safest sounding board you've ever had. And that thing you do where you narrate your groceries to your cat or ask your dog for his opinion on your outfit, that isn't silly. That's your brain activating one of the most powerful emotional regulation strategies that exists. You just stumbled into it naturally because you're smarter than you give yourself credit for. Let's break down what's actually happening in your brain when you talk to your pet, because the science on this is genuinely fascinating. Researchers like Nicholas Epley at the University of Chicago have studied anthropomorphism, the tendency to attribute human qualities to non-human things, and found something that surprises most people. It's not a sign of immaturity or delusion. It's actually correlated with higher social intelligence. Your brain is running its most advanced social cognition software, the same neural networks you use to read a room, predict someone's emotions, or navigate a complicated conversation, and it's applying that software to your pet. You're not being childish. Your brain is being hyperactive in the empathy department. Think of it like emotional pattern recognition on overdrive. Psychologist James Pennebrake spent decades studying the power of putting feelings into words, a process sometimes called affect labeling. When you speak your stress out loud, even to an audience that doesn't understand language, your prefrontal cortex activates and begins to down-regulate your amygdala, the brain's threat detection system. In plain terms, narrating your bad day to your dog literally calms down your fight or flight response. Your brain doesn't care that your dog can parse syntax. The act of organizing chaotic feelings into sentences is the medicine. Your pet just happens to be the warm body that makes it feel safe to do that. Now, here's the part that will really get you. Research in human-animal interaction has shown that when you sit with your pet and speak in soft, familiar tones, both of your nervous systems begin to sync. Your heart rate slows, your cortisol drops. Your pet's does too. This is called co-regulation, and it's the same mechanism that bonds parents to infants. Your body and your pet's body are literally calming each other down in a feedback loop. So when you're sitting on the kitchen floor telling your cat about your anxiety, you're not being dramatic. You're engaged in a bilateral nervous system regulation event. You just didn't have the vocabulary for it until now. Now, let's talk about the part that might sting a little, but in a good way. Ask yourself this: why does it feel safer to talk to your pet than talking to most humans? For a lot of people, the answer isn't just because pets are cute. It goes deeper than that. If you grew up in a home where expressing emotion was met with dismissal, criticism, or silence, if you learned early on that your feelings were too much or not a big deal, then your nervous system learned a very specific lesson. people are not safe containers for your inner world. Maybe you were the kid who learned to read the room before you could read a book. Maybe you became the family therapist at 9 years old, managing everyone else's emotions because no one was managing yours. Maybe you learned that the only way to get through dinner was to be invisible. And then one day, a pet entered your life. And that animal did something that no one in your childhood home ever did consistently. It just stayed. It sat next to you while you cried and didn't tell you to stop. It greeted you at the door with the same enthusiasm whether you got a promotion or failed an exam. It didn't need you to perform okayness. So for people who grew up with emotional neglect or in environments where they had to earn love through usefulness, a pet becomes the first relationship where they experience something radical, being loved without doing anything to deserve it. So yes, you talk to your pet. You talk to your pet because somewhere inside you, there's a part that still needs a safe place to say things out loud without being graded on the delivery. There's a part of you that was never allowed to just process, and your pet gives you permission to do that. That's not embarrassing. That's your inner child finally finding a space soft enough to exhale. And if talking to your pet is the thing that gets you through the hard days, if coming home and saying, "I'm so tired," to a pair of brown eyes that just looks at you is the thing keeping you above water, then that is not a flaw. That is a survival strategy that your brilliant, overtaxed nervous system built for you when no one else was paying attention. You're not broken. You never were. And you are absolutely allowed to give yourself and your pet grace for the quiet, unglamorous ways you've been holding yourself together. If this hit home for you, please subscribe. And if you want to support these deep dives, hit that join button to become a channel member. I would genuinely appreciate your support.